one of the tactics that the Democrats just love to use more than anything else is trying to refer to listen to the experts in order to try and bolster their factless claims. They always claim that these experts only exist in these big bureaucratic organizations such as the UN, the World Health Organizations, national or international organizations. These big liberal bastions of bureaucracy are the only places that experts can exist, and therefore we must listen to these experts. But they never seem to ask a question about what we do when these so-called experts are corrupted by political influence and money. And we've seen this play out as we take a look at the plague that has infected the world at this particular point. And so we see here, World Health Organization mostly ignored the blank warnings in December. I'm trying to avoid YouTube's little censorship here. The government of Taiwan attempted to warn the UN-led World Health Organization of the deadly potential of the Ipsovirus. Hopefully that's enough to get past YouTube here. Back in December of 2019, but the WHO failed to share Taiwan's findings on the virus to the world. The country's U.S. office confirmed to Breitbart News. Okay, and so we take a look here about all of the failings of these big bureaucratic organizations that are filled with so-called experts, leaders, in their field, and, these big organizations that are supposed to protect us. But as we've seen, politics and money can influence these organizations, as well as these organizations being filled by politicians, picking people that, they may subvert the data and the truth and their findings to the political ideology of those who appoint them to their positions. And if we're talking about big international organizations, big countries, such as China, can influence, the reporting of what comes out of these organizations by threatening to withdraw money, withhold money, or reduce funding. And so we get big international organizations that will kowtow to these other countries, such as China, in order to not offend them, to fluff the data, so to speak. So why is it that we should maintain any trust in these organizations? And by the way, what makes the political hacks that lead these organizations experts to begin with? On the national level, we see that presidents fill up the government with their own political appointees that are going to share the ideology and the belief system of the president. We saw that under President Barack Obama as he was trying to fill all these, so-called scientific-led parts of the government to promote, climate change, the ideology of man-made climate change, right? Where we saw many leaks that have come out showing that the data was being manipulated, being twisted, and that they were altering the data in order to fit their ideology. And so this is why we see tweets, and now getting to our current pandemic, about the World Health Organization saying, don't worry, back on January 14th, this is not human-to-human transmissible. The Chinese government has already come out and, informed us of that, right? So we have this problem here where people want to trust data. We want to trust scientists. We want to trust, the information we're getting. But time and again, the places, the institutions, and the people being promoted as the experts there to keep us safe, collecting the data, analyzing the data, and reporting its finding turned out to be corrupt, turned out to be, changing the data to their own political whims. So what do we do? What do we do here? Do we throw it all to corporations and businesses? We'll have the same problem, right? We'll go through and we'll have the exact same problems and issues where the corporations will go through and bend, twist, and manipulate the data in order to fit their own narratives. So this is the problem that we are facing in an era where politics and money is more important than scientific truth or information. And then we see it all over online as these corrupt institutions put out information. We'll see, the left going out there and, keyboard warriors saying, see, the experts agree. And then, they'll go off and say, well, it's not my opinion. Listen to the experts. And yet when we listen to these so-called experts and implement their recommendations, what happens? The results turn out to be disastrous a lot of the time. We say, communist countries probably had a whole bunch of experts saying that this system of government would be great, and it completely collapses. We see left-wing policies being implemented here in the United States, and it's destroying the states in which they're implemented in, like California, for example. And yet they keep going, all the experts agree. And part of referring to all the experts, and the experts not actually being individual people, but these big, massive organizations, is so that they can avoid accountability for the results. So when we go out and we take a look at the World Health Organization coming out and saying, back in January, that nothing to worry about, we've been assured this is not transmissible human to human. Now that we found out that it is, and that this is a real crisis, what's going to happen? Well, it's not an individual expert. It's the group got it wrong, or someone within the group, got the data wrong, or, abused their office. It's always they can scapegoat either a small unidentifiable group or claim it was some, unidentified person. There's no responsibility. And since there's no responsibility, the results don't ever matter. They can keep claiming that they are the experts or that their organization is the leading organization in this particular field. Because when you got people in the media, left-wing, hacks, filling up organizations with a bunch of political hacks with zero accountability, yet being promoted as the only leading authority in the world on the issues, then the results will never matter. Because there is no alternative institution, right? The results never matter because there's no individual accountability, and that's what's missing here. So how do we fix this? Well, we could say we could take, Elizabeth Warren's model for the CFPB and apply it to the scientific community and the scientific organizations, in which, to help insulate them and protect them from political and financial influences. Okay, but then who appoints those people, right? Because whoever appoints the people there would be based off of politics, and they're going to fill them with ideologues in order to get the results that they want. So my idea here, as far as how we can fix the scientific community to stop bowing to the demands of political and financial influences and stop being filled up with political hacks, is the scientific community and the leaders of the scientific community should be a meritocracy, where we go through and we hire people for those institutions based off of actual results. Were the studies that they founded and the results that they found actually measurable, actually provable? Were they true? Right? And then as they find out the truthfulness of the information, then they will be allowed entry into these big organizations. And then their movement up the organization should be based off of who had the best performance, whose information and scientific discovery was not only the most significant and profound, but also was the most provable and truthful when measured to actual results. We need to get to a complete meritocracy when it comes to science and have them completely insulated from political and financial influences. That's the only way we're going to get back to a scientific-based, evidence-based, situation to gauge what's going on when it comes to viruses, when it comes to climate and climate data, when it comes to anything coming out of the scientific community. Right? Because right now there is a complete breakdown of trust because we have had complete and total reason time and time again not to trust these institutions. So we need to get back to the point where we can trust these institutions and set up a model where they are devoid of political influence. That's the only way we're going to do it. That's the only way. Now, how we get from where we are now to experts, being promoted all over TV that are in reality political hacks and mouthpieces for propaganda regimes, and switching from that to where we need to be, I don't have all the answers. And I want to hear from you what the answers are. All I have is my theory on how we can make it completely based on merit, on results. Do you have other ideas? I want to know. Take a look at the conversation going on down below. Add to it, add your theories and opinions over how we can fix the scientific community so that it actually focuses on scientific results.